Hello, YouTube. It is I with an intro video. So, as some of you probably know, I won the 2023 Scrabble Players Championship in Las Vegas last month in July. And yeah, I wanted to show you guys how it happened. I know I'm a bit late uh, on the bandwagon, I guess. But yeah, I'm gonna try to bring you guys video a day. I don't know how many games. I think today I'll be bringing you 3 games, and I will be just going through the games and talking about the salient positions. And I hope you guys learn something. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys comment anything you think I missed. And yeah, this is just how I did it. So this is my journey. And my first game was against none other than, I will show you guys this scene. Here we are. So, round one record 0-0. That's my first game of Nationals, and I'm playing Mark Miller. And you're not reading that wrong. I'm not saying that wrong. I was not playing Mac Miller, but I was playing someone with a very similar name to his. Mark is rated around in the 1600s, 1700s sometimes. Very strong opponent, and I'd only played him once previously at a Nationals in 2018. So the way that the pairings for this tournament work, uh, it starts off with you being in a group of 4 people, so quads. If you're from chess, you know what that is. And then you play a round robin against the other 3 players in your group, and then it starts with Swiss pairings. So you play people with similar records to yours with a 1 round delay. So they'll decide my round 6 pairing after my round 4 result, um, for example. And yeah, after that, try to minimize repeat games, repeat opponents until maybe I think it was 18 games out of 28 had passed, and then after 18 games, you started playing the same opponents if they had similar records to you. Um, and that is how it goes. So yeah, any other background related questions, feel free to ask. This was all played in the NWL20 lexicon. Hopefully I don't have to mention that all that often, but of course there's always very confusing to new players that multiple dictionaries are used. And yeah, that's about it. At the end of the game, I'll try to remember. I have this routine set up. Try to show you a photo of the final board and update the round and record numbers. So here we go. This is Mark to go first, round 1 of 28. And Mark opened with Airy for 14 points. Let's see if I can pull this up. Yep. Okay. So Mark played Airy. Thought it was interesting because Airy takes a lot of hooks. So it takes a D hook, an L hook, an F hook, an H hook. Might even be forgetting. And I had the D. I didn't have any other hooks. So it felt good to utilize that hook, but I didn't have a great way of doing that. So there are a couple of options that I could have considered. The option I ended up going with was Gid. There's also the option of playing Vug, which I considered as well at 9D here. And in a simulation, Vug does about a point better than Gid, so really not much to think about. Pudgy didn't do very well in a sim, and Big doesn't make sense. Sets up an easy hook and keeps a U. So yeah, Gid is what I went for. It's 21 points. I felt that it was good to score some points and get rid of all the hooks of Airy and not set up something super easy for Mark to respond with. But Mark does respond with NOH. And so he scores pretty well, but I draw decently to PSV. I draw DEHY. I'm able to score very well here. There are two options. They're both on this D column. And the one I chose was the only one I saw for some reason, even though I did see the other word on my rack. I just, for some reason, didn't want to play it or didn't see the spot. I don't quite remember. I think I just didn't see that it played. I played hyped. I could have also played, you'll see here, phys ed for 8 more points, also getting rid of the S. Now, it's better to play hyped simply because the S is worth a significant amount, but also phys ed will open a triple, so that is not necessary in this position. It's good to just keep things tight, score some points, keep the S. Mark played bit here, and I didn't think much of this play. I just thought, okay, he probably has maybe a duplicate T, maybe another I. Maybe he has bingo tiles. He's trying to score some points and go for something. But I probably should have looked a bit more into that because here I drew very well. I have a bingo. I have playable festives in many parts of the board. So there's festive here for 88, festive here for 87. Either way, wherever you put the blank E, it'll score 87. And then there's also festive here, which doesn't make any sense. Just play for 88 if you're going to do that. And I decided I would sacrifice a point here, play festive here. Simply, again, I didn't want to open top of the board with this triple. And most of all, I did not want to create this thing here. Festive takes no hooks, and so I'm going to have to be dealing with the potential hooks for bite throughout the entire game. Off the top of my head, just bites and biter are the hooks. And yeah, mostly just worried about that. I didn't want to create this situation where it's just like maybe never going to get blocked. Of course, you could foresee maybe a play through this V. It does get rid of the threat. And that was the main reason. I didn't want to set up just these scoring options. I rather wanted to set up maybe just scoring options here, which are not a big deal. And yeah, I think I regret this decision. I think I should have played for 88. And there are a couple of reasons why. I mean, the number one reason that this play might not be so good is I am creating a hard to deal with hook. It's less of a big deal than the M column hook on bite because any play ending in S making ifs will open big scoring opportunities and won't score as much as a double word column would for a 7-letter word. But also, I'm leaving this L column open, so with a lot of racks that Mark might have, I'm just giving him the free ability to play on the L column. So yeah, I decided to play this one, and the main reason I shouldn't have done that was none of the things I mentioned. The main reason I shouldn't have played it is because by playing festive here, I'm able to neutralize a lot of the damage that can be done at this 6J spot. And we'll see the problem with my decision after Mark cashes his Q for 64 points. And indeed, he kept the Q. So this was a Q setup. And he was able to maximize the value of his Q over 2 turns. And I did not sense that anything was happening. And so kudos to Mark. That was a really nice play. Of note, if I had played festive here, and Mark happened to have an I, a U, and a T, he can still play through the V of festive with Kiviut, but of course, very unlikely, and I should have neutralized that. So yeah, we see a setup in game 1, and it isn't even mine, so that's really cool. Next, I played Juan, and this is actually a mistake, the first clear mistake of the game. I missed the play of a vowel for 26 points, keeping a more workable NS compared to ALOS. ALOS can be good if I draw into bingos, and it could also fail me miserably if I draw 1-point tiles or vowels. Then I can't do anything. So the NS is a more flexible leave. A vowel sets up an S hook, where I already have a powerful, potentially powerful S-hook on IFS, and it's just overall a better play. So that was a miss, and Mark capitalizes once more, playing the Z and the X for 62 points. Zach's not giving back any triple play, and yeah, he's ahead by 17 after this. Luckily for me, my ALOS leave turns into this bingo rack. This is a very common set of 7 letters, and if you're able to find the bingos on this rack, let me know in the comments. One is sufficient, but there I think are 3, and I played Oralist, Taylors and Rialtos being the other 2. Oralist, of course, does better than the other 2. It scores better because it hooks RE with the T, and also does not open a triple, or does it? For the most part, it doesn't open the A column triple, but there's actually a sneaky hook, or maybe not so sneaky hook on Oralist, Moralist, an M, and neither of the M's have been played, as you can see. So it's very likely that Oralist will get hooked at some point for maybe a lot of points. So Mark responds with WEE, and in this position, I have a somewhat awkward rack, all 1-point tiles, can't score that much. Nothing tremendous. I don't have an S, I don't have a blank. So I don't really care for these letters. I want to get rid of a lot of them and score some points. So I thought a great way of doing that was ovule. It's worth noting that I could have also played evolute or veloute here and being a bit more aggressive. Kept a lone O on my rack. Had no fear of what might become of a play like this, because veloute, I mean, you can just access the triple immediately. Evolute you can as well if you have an S. But the point to making a longer play, scoring some extra points, is really the T, O, and the E don't matter as much as a blank, for example, an M even. There are some tiles I'd much rather draw an S to try and maintain my my small lead in this game and come back and respond to more of the things that Mark can do. So it's worth noting that I could have done one of these things, but I decided to keep things a little bit tighter with ovule. So that was a questionable move. Mark responds with next for 29 points, opening this O column once more. Want will take an S, and something could happen. Something big could happen. Here, I drew an S. It's very nice. And I thought to myself, all right, what can I do here? So there's the option of phi, there's the option of F, FOE as well. And yeah, there really wasn't much that I saw. Florets scores 30 points. That could be an option, but now that the S has a huge, potentially huge hook on the O column, I'm more likely to want to keep my S, and Florets does create this annoying lane on the B column. In this position, I figured the decision was between phi for 20 or faux for 20. And I knew that EE and EO together, those 2 leaves, both have a very similar value. And depending on the letters you're keeping with the EE or EO, and depending on the unseen letters, like how many E's remain, how many O's remain, a lot of factors go into which leave is better than the other. And in my life, I feel like I have never gotten the distinction between EE and EO correct, ever, whenever there's a decision like this. So here I played faux, thinking that the EELST leave was stronger than the ELOST leave. Number 1, because I can play through this O in Oralist. If I keep another O, it's very unlikely I will have a bingo through a second O. And number 2, it just looked better. It looked like I'm drawing into more bingos. I thought this was better, and Quackle, the engine I use to analyze the games, told me, no, you're wrong. This is a 3-point mistake, and I have to settle for getting it wrong once again. So yeah, OO versus EO, it's just impossible for some reason for me. Here, Mark bingos with Erasian, so he's playing the other S that remains, and in this position, I drew into a bingo, but not a very strong one. So Luckily, I had a spot for it after Eurasian, the only bingo in the position Teledues. And now this is wide open. All this is wide open. This is wide open. This is open. So there's a lot of stuff that could happen, a lot of stuff that could go wrong. I'm only taking a 16-point lead. I was definitely not feeling very secure. And Mark ties the game up with the Vang, getting rid of consonants. And my next draw was very nice. I was able to score quite well using that Moralist hook that was still out there with Joram for 52. Mark plays Cobb, again, getting rid of clunky consonants for 18. And he's down by 34. And I have one of the last remaining O's for Kobo, but that was not important here. What was important here is trying to outrun a bingo or trying to block any bingo he might have. So what remains on this board? Well, Cobb does a really good job of inhibiting this N as a potential spot to play an 8-letter word, but it doesn't totally destroy the possibility. There are A and E words. There are no I's left though, so that really helped me drawing the last two I's. I and E is way likelier ending than A and E. So I felt like this N might not be that big of a deal, and that maybe I wanted to block some of the higher scoring things in the position, potentially through this H, or maybe even down from the B column, making JO. Just neutralize this entire quadrant of the board with the play of Gothic, scoring 36 points, taking a 70-point lead. And this play is questionable. I have the option of playing, well, Incog here was just worse to me than Gothic, simply because it didn't do anything to address the top quadrant, and there's still possibilities to this N. But the other option was Nicotin for 37. And Nicotin, more importantly, neutralizes this lane that is still there. With wants, of course, you need to use the blank as an S, but as we know, S's are very likely to be at the start of words, or anywhere in a word. S is just the best. So I decided I would play Gothic, but Nicotin is very interesting. I didn't consider that play. It scores a little bit more and does block triple triples that can happen, and high scoring plays as well through this N. So it's possible that Nicotin is a better play, but Gothic comes down, and here Mark has a very, very strong rack, and he takes a very long time in this position. I don't have the timestamps, unfortunately, but he decides that he needs to score more than just a normal bingo score to win this game. So instead of playing or finding something high scoring like pre-clean, prelate, pre-sale, these all fit. They're very tough fits, but they are possible. Pre-clean isn't a tough fit, it's just a very tough find, ending a word in AN. Instead of any of these things, which give him a decent chance of winning, but not a very good one. He was correct in his assessment that he'll be drawing 5 tiles from the bag, and after drawing 5 tiles, it's likely that I will have a sequence of 2 moves in the end game that will not allow him to go out next move and also will outscore him. So he decided that he would phony, and you see it right there. D-planar, very good try. It could very well be a word, but it just isn't. And I knew this, and I was very happy to see this come down because I challenged it off and knew that I pretty much could not lose this game unless he had an actual triple-triple. So I spent most of the rest of my time just making sure he didn't have a triple-triple. I didn't even look for other things that he could have. I assumed that if he had stuff, probably played in multiple spots. So yeah, pre-sale, pre-late, and pre-clean all play still, and I can't block all of them at once, so I decided I wouldn't really care much about trying to find his threats that won't win the game, because he probably missed them last turn. So I played item for 41, and Mark still has pre-clean, but he misses it and plays ape. I play canoe, which I think was the best end game. Yeah, canoe is the best end game. He goes out with losers, for 6, and I win the game 504 to 375. It does say 395 here, but Mark went overtime after his decision to play D planer. He went overtime by over a minute, so he loses 20 points on time. And that was game 1. So let's see if I can do this thing where I show you the board. Okay, there it is. Very nice. And so that's what the board looked like, exactly like what I put onto Wiggles. So you know that I'm not getting around. So my record is now at 1-0. Oh, maybe I should put the spread. That might be a bit too much of a hassle. I don't think I'll put the spread. Okay. So that's the first game. And let's jump right into game number 2. Let me just make sure. Okay, close your eyes for 2 seconds. Okay, never mind, you're fine. So round 2 was against Darrell Day, a 1900 rated player from Texas. And the first time I played Darrell, we had a good game. And after the game, Darrell said, "This is the start of a very intense rivalry." And I was like, oh, okay. And we haven't played that much since then, but it's always fun to play Darrell. And I was first to go in this game. I opened with Togue. See if I can just want to pull this game up just to make sure that I'm not missing anything. So Togue is correct play here. It's a nice balance between scoring some points, keeping decently. There's nothing great to do. Darrell plays Kudo. Here. Sorry, I will iron out all the kinks of doing this eventually. Oh yeah, I know what I was doing wrong. Okay. Here we go. So yeah, Togue must play. He plays Kudo, and there's actually a very nice play here that I was happy to spot before he made his play. So it's not expire, which is a nice play in its own right for 56 points. But the play is inexpert to this T. Togue. There was actually a game last year at the Scrabble Players Championship where Michael Fagan had unexpert as a possible play, but he wasn't sure it was valid and he didn't play it. And I couldn't remember when I was playing an expert if the play was unexpert or inexpert that Michael did not make, but I knew that both were valid and they both meant the same thing: inexpert, a novice. But what I didn't know is an expert actually takes an S. Luckily, that didn't matter in this game. Darrell continues with YO, EO for 26. I draw very nicely here. And I play Telecine for 78. Now, I have options here for 76 in Licente and Centile. And I don't remember considering them, seriously enough. I decided that I would play Telecine because after YO, it seemed very likely that Darrell had all 1-point tiles. So these openings on the B column through this I, although normally it would be very dangerous, seemed to favor me more than they would favor Darrell. So I thought that this was a good adjustment to make. Normally, I think you take 76 pointers because they do not open such humongous possibilities for opponent. So yeah, play Telecine. Darrell plays Pronates with no hesitation for 90, and he's down 46. And this was the scenario I was not fully hoping for, but expecting. A scenario where he bingoed back, and I would hopefully draw into some high-scoring play. However, I drew 6 fouls, and I actually don't have a good option here other than to play something like Uri. However, there is another play that I did not see in this position of Kuroi for 13. So 5-point sacrifice, not taking out this spot, actually looks like a better play. And the reason for it is that the E is just so much more powerful. You see the difference in estimated value, 15.82 versus 15.55. So the EI combination, much stronger than the OI combination. And it just seems so counterintuitive not to block this big spot. But I need to play attacking Scrabble here, according to the engine, and be a bit more aggressive. If he plays down to the B column, so be it. I will have a better leave. I might be able to play something on the H column. I might be able to bingo sooner than later. So I'm still not sure if I really buy this, but Kuroi definitely does do better in a simulation. Plural of Kuros. Darrell plays Wilder or Wilder, and I play Olio. Now, when I played Olio, it was like an intuitive decision. I played Olio because it just seemed like the right play. And if we go back, I'm keeping QAR. And why would I keep the Q and only score 14 points? Well, my thinking was that if I draw a T, happen to draw a T next turn after Olio, I will have the Q and the A, so I can play Cot down here for 50 points, or 51. And there were 2 U's out, so I could draw a U. And there's also the possibility of maybe just playing simple QI next turn if I drew decent tiles, to then maybe just fish and try and draw into a bingo soon. So that was the reasoning I had behind Olio. The other reasoning is that I am blocking the scoring spot and blocking this S as a 8-letter spot to play an 8-letter lane. And yeah, when I made this play and hit my clock, I was like, what are you doing, Josh? Like, why did you do this? But indeed, it does do best in a simulation. And unfortunately, I was not aware that I had made what seems to be the correct play, because what happened after this is Darrell played Vane, and I drew into this weird rack, still with the Q, and being like, why do I have this Q? I should not have this Q. And so I decided that I needed to play it. I decided I need to just get rid of my Q this turn. So I'm like, man, I can't play QI for 11, can I? Like, what do I draw? Is there any 7-letter word that I can draw? Oh, maybe I can just drop my S and play QIS for 24. That doesn't seem that bad. Sure, he could have an A and a T. Seems pretty likely. But now Cot is only going to score 38 points. That's not a big deal. So I decided that I would play QIS, but this is a mistake. I really should have held on to my Q again and played something like Forb for 26 or Fob for 24, maintaining the potential of playing QAT. And after Forb and Fob, I now have other spots to get rid of my Q potentially. If I draw an I, just QI and IF in either position, and I should be doing okay. So this was a mistake, and I get punished with Cot for 38. And I just have to hope that the A and the T were maybe the best tiles that Darrell had, because now I'm only up 14 points, and I've gotten rid of my S, and I have no scoring potential. I can score decently now, but my rack is not very good, and there are 2 blanks still lurking. So this definitely didn't work out for me. I ended up playing Beef for 32. And Darrell said he exchanged C, D, F, G, G here, not I, U, which is how I usually notate exchanges. And I draw very well. I draw an E and I draw an H, so I'm going to be able to score and score over a few moves and balance my rack. I play Ovine, or sorry, not Ovine, Avion for 27 through the V. So I've already forgotten what I've done. Keeping the H for scoring, blocking the V. I mean, over words aren't super likely, especially given that I had the last O on my rack. But yeah, with 2 blanks out, it was good to take away this V and keep the H to potentially score next turn or respond to whatever he would do. He plays Jet, and I draw some nice heavy scoring tiles that work really well, and I'm able to play Dafter for 49, and now I'm ahead by 84 points. So I was feeling pretty good, but Darrell comes back with Wiz. Now he's only down 42, and I have this rack. So I want to keep scoring, but I don't have anything great. There aren't that many vowels left and still 2 blanks out, so I'm definitely not out of the woods. And I played Nya for 38, just shedding as much as I could and scoring as much as I could. And Darrell responded with tops for 16. And now being ahead 64 points, I felt pretty comfortable given that there were only 9 tiles in the bag remaining. I felt like because Darrell can't play 2 bingos with 2 separate blanks, I should be winning most scenarios. And I decided to score some points here and play Organum for 24. It's definitely possible that I could play something else in this position. Organum looks very nice. It scores as much as I can and leaves only 3 in the bag. It's good to leave 3 in the bag rather than 2 or 4, because if Darrell does bingo next, well, leaving 4 would be fine actually. But if Darrell does bingo next turn, he'll be drawing 3 random tiles, and hopefully I can prevent him from scoring well on his outplay or going out at all. But the other options here are Agendum for 17 and the play of Gum for 19. So those are the other options. Gum is a different type of play. It's a balancing play. If he does bingo next turn, it's actually ideal because he draws 6, and 6 tiles are almost never going to go out in one. So I should have a lot of leeway to be able to find a sequence of 2 plays that goes out before Darrell and beats him by only a few points. So yeah, the idea of Gum makes sense as well. There was also this threat lurking in this game of avionics. It was possible ever since I played Avion, and apparently Darrell was thinking about it as well, but didn't quite ever draw it. So yeah, I decided that Organum was the way to go, that I should be able to just win almost all scenarios here. However, there are a lot of plays that Darrell could have had that would win the game or be likely to win the game. And this is a pretty high scoring play that he came up with, but it wasn't nearly the worst thing that could happen. He decided to play Enclaves. However, he had a better play in Cervelas for 90, so 4 more points, and that would put him up by 12. And if he just draws an outplay after Cervelas, it's possible he'll just be able to win. But I think he missed that, and he played Enclaves. I was upset that he didn't designate the blank as an X, even though it makes absolutely no difference in pretty much any scenario, probably no scenario whatsoever, whether the blank is an X or an N. It's just nicer to play Exclaves. But Darrell, of course, just trying to win the game. He doesn't really care about the style. And got into this position. And I'm only up 2 points, and I see that he's drawn BMU. And BMU forms the word bum. Bum goes here. Bum goes here. And goes here. Sorry, not both of those spots. But yeah, there are a few spots, like high scoring spots for bum. So for a minute, I was like, okay, this is not over. I need to make sure that I'm scoring enough to outrun his play. So bum here is 28 points. So I'm needing to make a play that not only scores more than 26, but leaves me with tiles on my rack that after doubled and coming off my score, I still outrun Darrell's score. So what we call banking a certain amount of points is making a play that scores a certain amount minus the letters that opponent is getting after they go out. And so if I bank 27 points, I will win this game if he plays bum on top of Organum. So I was looking for plays that duplicated, doubled the H here. Couldn't find any. And I first saw Radish for 33, and that banked exactly 27 points. So I thought to myself, okay, if anything, I should be able to play Radish and outrun Bum by 1 point. And to make sure that this was correct, instead of looking for other plays, my next course of action was to recount the entire game. So from the beginning, make sure that all of the scores were accurately represented and that there were no discrepancies, so that after a recount, which is something you can demand after a game is over, I would not be in for an unpleasant surprise, because there are many times where a game's results has been overturned by a recount. So I wanted to make sure, and I had the time to do so. And indeed, the scores were correct. But then I found an even better play, which I played quickly, Jihadis. And when I played this, I was like, oh, Jihadis takes a T and an M hook. Luckily, he doesn't have either of those. But he does. And he can play Jihadism for 39 points. But instead, he plays Bum for 28 and loses by 6. However, Bum is a better play than Jihadism. So if you look at the score, Jihadism only puts Darrell up by 1 point, 441 to 440, and I'll go out anywhere with my G and win the game easily. So luckily, my stupidity did not cost me the game here, and I win a very, very tight score. So those are the first 2 games. I think I'm actually going to end the video here because it lasted a bit longer than I thought it would. I think around 40 minutes is a lot. So maybe, yeah, depending on how interesting the games were, might take longer or less long. But I'll tell you guys, I think I'm going to make 1 video for the next game because it is just so insane. And so I will show you guys the next picture. There we go. This is the final board. Of course, you see that because I was the highest rated player in the quad, I have the privilege of remaining at the same table on the same board for the first 3 games. Just one of the perks of life. So the first 3 games were played on the same board, same tiles. But this was the end, and I won the game by 6 points. So let's put the updated record 2-0, and I'll be back next time with game 3. This video that's coming tomorrow is going to be totally crazy. It's one of the craziest things that's ever happened to me over the board in Scrabble, and yeah, just wait and find out. Maybe I will be putting the point spread as well. Maybe it's not that big of a deal. You guys get to see what the total point spread I had was. It's probably a good thing. And I'll see you guys next time. So thanks for watching, and I've said a lot of things that should have already ended the video.